The law office where I worked wasn't exactly glamorous. It was one of those small firms that handled everything from divorces to property disputes, a stepping stone for young lawyers like me who were still trying to make a name for themselves. Most of my colleagues were older, hardened by years of legal battles, but then there was Olivia. She was a paralegal, sharp, efficient, and effortlessly charming. Everyone liked Olivia. She had a way of making people feel important, whether she was managing a client's endless questions or fixing a mistake in someone's brief without a hint of condescension. I wasn't immune to her charm, but I kept my distance. I knew better than to mix work and personal lives. At least, that's what I told myself. It wasn't until the night of the firm's charity gala that everything changed. The event was held at a downtown hotel, the kind with marble floors and chandeliers that looked like they belonged in a museum. I was nursing my second whiskey, trying to avoid yet another conversation about golf, when Olivia appeared beside me at the bar. "Let me guess," she said, her voice low and teasing. "You're hiding." I smirked, raising my glass. "You caught me." She ordered a drink, leaning against the bar as she glanced around the room. "You'd think a room full of lawyers would be more exciting," she said. "But no. It's all the same conversations about billable hours and vacation homes. And yet, here you are," I pointed out. Her smile widened. "Here I am." We ended up talking for the rest of the night, about everything and nothing. She told me about her dream of becoming a lawyer herself, how she'd put it on hold to take care of her younger brother after their parents passed away. I told her about my small-town upbringing, my struggle to prove I belonged in the cutthroat world of city law. It was easy, natural, like we'd known each other for years. But as the evening wound down and the guests began to leave, the air between us shifted. She looked at me, her eyes lingering a moment too long, and I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years: temptation. "You want to share a cab?" she asked, her voice soft. I hesitated, my pulse quickening. "Sure," I said finally. The ride was quiet, the city lights flickering through the windows as we sat side by side. I could feel the tension between us, unspoken but undeniable. When the cab stopped in front of her building, she turned to me, her expression unreadable. "Do you want to come up?" she asked. I should have said no. I should have thanked her for the evening and gone home. But instead, I nodded. The next morning, I woke up in her bed, the weight of my decision settling over me like a stone. She was still asleep, her hair spilling across the pillow, her breathing soft and even. For a moment, I let myself admire her, the way the early morning light caught the curve of her cheek. But then reality crashed back in. I was engaged. I left Olivia's apartment before she woke up, the city still quiet as I hailed a cab back to my place. The guilt hadn't hit me yet, not fully. Instead, there was a strange calm, the kind that comes before a storm. I told myself I'd made a mistake, that it was a one-time thing, a lapse in judgment that didn't mean anything. But that lie didn't last long. Later that day, I was sitting at my desk, staring blankly at a contract I was supposed to be reviewing, when Olivia walked into my office. She closed the door behind her, leaning against it with her arms crossed. "We need to talk," she said. I looked up, my heart sinking. "About last night?" She nodded, her expression unreadable. "I'm not going to make this complicated, Damien. I'm not looking for anything more. It happened, and that's it." I blinked, caught off guard by her bluntness. "You're okay with that?" She shrugged. "I told you, I'm not here to ruin your life. But I also think you should figure out why you let it happen in the first place." Her words stung because they were true. I had let it happen, and now I had to deal with the fallout. That evening, I went home to find my fiancé. She nodded, her expression unreadable. I'm not going to make this complicated, Damien. I'm not looking for anything more. It happened, and that's it. I blinked, caught on. How would you feel if your partner hid their affair for months or even years? Write in the comments. Off guard by her bluntness. You're okay with that? She shrugged. I told you, I'm not here to ruin your life. But I also think you should figure out why you let it happen in the first place. Her words stung because they were true. I had let it happen. And now, I had to deal with the fallout. That evening, I went home to find my fiancée, Lauren, sitting on the couch with a glass of wine in her hand. She looked up when I walked in, her smile warm and familiar. Hey, she said. How was work? I hesitated, the weight of my secret pressing down on me. Busy, I said finally, forcing a smile. How about you? Good, she replied, standing and walking over to kiss me. I was thinking we could do dinner at that Italian place you like. I nodded, my chest tightening. Sounds great. But as I followed her into the kitchen, I couldn't help but wonder how much longer I could keep up the act. For a while, I managed to push the guilt aside. Olivia kept her distance, and Lauren didn't seem to suspect anything. But secrets have a way of surfacing, no matter how carefully you try to bury them. It started with a simple mistake, a receipt I had left in my pocket from the Cafe Olivia, and I had stopped it after the gala. Lauren found it while doing laundry, and though it wasn't incriminating on its own, it planted a seed of doubt. Who's Olivia? She asked one evening, holding up the receipt. I froze, my mind racing. She's a paralegal at the firm, I said quickly. We stopped for coffee after the gala. That's all. She raised an eyebrow, her gaze piercing. You never mentioned her before. There wasn't much to mention, I said, trying to sound casual. She's just a colleague. But Lauren wasn't convinced. Over the next few weeks, she started asking more questions, her tone sharper, her eyes colder. And then one day, she found the text. I came home to find Lauren standing in the living room, her phone in hand. You forgot to log out of your account, she said, her voice shaking. Care to explain why Olivia is texting you about how much she misses you? My heart sank as I realized there was no way out. Lauren, I began, but she held up a hand. Don't, she said. Just tell me the truth. Did you sleep with her? I hesitated, the weight of my lies finally crashing down. Yes, I said quietly. I did. Her face crumpled, tears spilling down her cheeks as she turned away. I trusted you, she whispered. I gave you everything, Damien. And this is how you repay me? I'm sorry, I said, my voice hollow. I didn't mean for it to happen. Didn't mean for it to happen? She repeated, laughing bitterly. You don't accidentally sleep with someone, Damien. You made a choice. I had no defense. She was right, and we both knew it. The next morning, Lauren was gone. She left a note on the kitchen counter, short and to the point. I'm staying with my sister. Don't call me. I stared at it for a long time, the finality of her words settling over me like a heavy fog. I thought I could keep the two parts of my life separate, but in the end, they collided, leaving nothing but ruins in their wake. Weeks passed, and I tried to focus on work, but Olivia's presence became unbearable. The easy banter we'd once shared was gone, replaced by awkward silences and stolen glances. Eventually, I requested a transfer to another office, needing distance to rebuild whatever was left of my life. As I packed up my desk, Olivia stopped by, her expression unreadable. Leaving so soon? She asked lightly. I think it's for the best, I replied. She nodded, her eyes softening. I hope you figure things out, Damien. Yeah, I said, forcing a smile. Me too. Looking back, I don't know if I made the right choices. All I know is that infidelity isn't just a moment. It's a ripple that spreads, pulling everyone it touches into the undertow. And sometimes, when the waves finally settle, you're left standing alone on the shore, wondering if it was worth it. For me, it wasn't.